I'm Francesca Maxime, and this is Currents. Do they go far enough? Religious protections, once a sticking point in Albany's push for same-sex nuptials, became a reason to pass the bill. Plus, are religious institutions really protected under the amended Marriage Equality Act? We'll find out. And Haitians in Brooklyn meet at an annual gathering to celebrate the country's patron saint.
We have special devotion to her because the icon of the Our Lady of Perpetual Help was used by the bishops in Haiti in the mid-1800s because there was an epidemic, and by the intercession of the Blessed Mother, the country was healed.
Well, good evening, and thank you so much for joining us. Matt McClure has the night off. Well, before the act that would grant same-sex couples the legal right to get married in New York could become law, it had to get out of conference and come to the Senate floor for a vote. So for weeks, the question about Governor Andrew Cuomo's same-sex marriage legislation was not just about how senators would vote, but if senators would ever vote on the controversial measure. In order to get the then bill out of conference, a majority of the Senate's Republicans had to agree to bring the measure to a vote. So how did Senate Majority Leader Dean Skelos manage to bring the bill out of conference and onto the floor for a vote? Ed Wilkinson, Currents' news director, had a chance to speak with one man who could tell us exactly what did happen in those marathon closed-door meetings up in Albany, Republican State Senator Marty Golden.
State Senator Martin Golden from Brooklyn, thank you for being with us today.
Thank you, Ed. It's my privilege to be with you and with your listeners.
Yeah. As we watched this dramatic session of the State Senate on TV the other night, for a while there it seemed like it was stalled, that the same-sex legislation was not going to get through. But what was happening behind closed doors in the Republican conference there? Could you tell us a little bit about what was going on?
It was a conversation as to whether it should happen, not happen, and it was a pretty, I guess, a lively debate. It went on for 6 hours, so it was intense. I guess there were, those that believe, like myself, that this should be put before a referendum to the people, that we shouldn't be dealing with a social issue of this magnitude, and 31 states have dealt with this, and 31 states have voted it down. And I believe if the state of New York had the opportunity to vote for it, they would have done the same thing. Yeah. Why are 62 state senators making the decisions on a social issue of this magnitude for 19.5 million people?
How close did this bill come to not getting on the floor for a vote?
Well, that's one of the decisions that were being made, and it was back and forth, as I said. There were a number of senators that believed, as I did, and as others in the room, that this bill should not hit the floor and that it should have been a referendum.
Senator, I spoke yesterday with Senator Ruben Diaz, and he said that the rules of the game seemed to change when this bill came to the floor. Was that in your impression also?
I believe that Ruben Diaz did lay some bills aside for discussion, and I believe that there was a miscommunication as to laying the bill aside. Laid one aside, he debated it. He wouldn't let him do the second, and he was quite upset, and I guess rightfully so. He should have been allowed to, I believe, have his debate. Mm-hmm. And as a matter of fact, it moved as slow as it moved, and as the process did seem to be slowed, and that's because mainly, I guess, those for gay marriage wanted to be able to speak on it and carry on the session. I believe that we had to err on the part that gave us the best security for the Catholic Church and for the Jewish and Muslim brothers and sisters, of course, but state of New York.
Bishop DiMarzio put out a pretty tough statement that really said that the parishes should not invite state legislators to the parishes and the social events at the schools. That affects everybody, no matter which way they voted. How did you feel about that?
Well, obviously, I think, unfortunately, that a lot of people take their religion for granted, and I think that you need somebody to stand up and and lay down the law when it comes to their religion, their God. And I believe that I give them credit for stepping up and taking a positive, I believe, a positive way of dealing with it. Letting the legislators know, listen, if you're not going to stick to your religious values, then why are you coming into our churches and talking to the people here in different forums?
Yeah.
We don't need that to happen. So I can understand where the bishop's coming from. I wish that I know I fought the good fight to try to get it stopped.
Right.
So I understand that I would have to pay a price, and I would be willing to listen to the good bishop. I think he's done the right thing. I think we need more bishops like him across this country and across this nation, and hopefully that will happen in the future. But you have to have principles. You know how many principles? You have no church. So you need those principles, and I think this is a dear principle to give up, and that's gay marriage. I believe that the marriage between a man and a woman 5,000 years old should have stayed. When it comes to benefits, taking care of people, I believe that this state does a great job, and everybody should have equal protections and benefits. But the marriage should not have been tampered with and should not have been changed. And I think the Supreme Court will eventually deal with this issue. As I said, 31 states voted against it. There are now 6 states that are for it. So it's going to be very interesting as we move along the next several years.
Governor Cuomo seems to be very popular right now. He's riding on a high. Is this going to have any effect on your own personal political career?
I don't believe so. I'm looking at the different avenues, and I've obviously, I believe, been very successful as a New York State Senator in being able to deliver legislation that works and being able to deal with our educational system, our healthcare system, especially in this dire times when you need some real leaders in healthcare and education because of the changes that are hitting our state, our nation. So I'm looking to proceed and do that and to represent not only my community, but the community of the city of New York.
Senator Golden, thank you very much for taking the time to talk with us today.
Thank you, Ed. God bless you and your family.
Thank you.
Stay tuned. A major voice for the defense of traditional marriage weighs in on the recently passed same-sex marriage legislation in New York. Welcome back. Well, marriage as a union between one man and one woman can seem like a notion from the sepia-colored past, especially in New York, where the right to marry was recently granted to same-sex couples. The vote that redefined marriage was widely denounced by religious leaders, including New York Archbishop Timothy Dolan.
I would have to say I was sad. You know, I'm just sad because I think it's not good for the common good, and that's what we've been arguing for so long. It's just that I think a society, a culture is at its peril if we presume to tamper with what has been settled and given and already taught us and cherished for the history of civilization. I was disappointed.
Well, according to Bishop Salvatore Cordileone, the chair of the U.S. Conference of Catholic Bishops Subcommittee for the Promotion and Defense of Marriage, New York's vote to topple traditional marriage points to the abandonment of the common good mentioned by Archbishop Dolan. To learn more about Bishop Cordileone's thoughts on same-sex marriage and the potential ramifications of the law, Currents' news director Ed Wilkinson spoke with the bishop earlier by phone.
Bishop Cordileone, thank you for joining us today.
You're welcome.
I guess, what happens in New York is big news all across the country, and I guess as the head of the committee for the Bishops' Committee for the Defense of Marriage, you must have taken particular interest in this same-sex legislation here in New York. What was your overall reaction when you heard that this bill had passed?
Oh, I would say it was extreme disappointment that the political leaders in the state could not understand the importance of marriage for the common good, especially those politicians who switched their vote on the issue after they had indicated they would vote to support marriage. You know,
we have a Catholic governor here in New York, and many of the legislators were Catholics, and the bishops had lobbied them. What do you think is going on when a lot of Catholic politicians can just ignore what the bishops seem to say?
Well, I think it's emblematic of a catechetical crisis we have in the church. We need to do a better job of forming our people in the faith so they can understand not just understand the teachings of the church, but even more than that, understand why the church teaches what she does.
Sure. You said that in the statement that there seemed to be an abandonment of the common good. What did you mean by that phrase?
It's plural millennial wisdom that a healthy society is based on the family. Healthy families are based on healthy marriages. The purpose of marriage is to connect children to the man and the woman who brought them into the world. The best interests of children are served by being raised by their mother and father in a loving union. That's how children are going to grow, in a loving, nurturing home where they're going to develop the virtues they need to be responsible, honest citizens. This all serves the common good.
Once a bill like this is enacted, it's pretty hard to overturn it. What can the church do to better its catechesis and its teaching on marriage and the family?
We're already making some efforts in the USCCB of its importance for serving the common good through the sexual complementarity of man and a woman, through the whole related question of religious liberties. And we see the track record, the more that same-sex legislation is enacted, the more religious liberties and rights of conscience are diminished, and people of conscience and people of faith are being pushed more and more to the margins of society, the more same-sex legislation is enshrined in the law.
Yeah. You spoke also in the statement about possible retaliation against people who support traditional marriage. What kind of retaliations are you talking about there?
The track record speaks for itself. You know, we know about the Boston Catholic Charities Adoption Agency. The state of Massachusetts refused to grant them a license because their belief is a child is best served by a mother and a father. So because they refused to put children up in same-sex households, even though there are plenty other adoption agencies that would do so, they were denied their license. Again, this is an example of the marginalization that takes place. Same thing in Washington, D.C., same thing in San Francisco. We also see lots of rights of conscience cases. The gynecologist in San Diego County who lost the case for refusing to artificially inseminate a woman of a lesbian couple. But in addition to that, I might also mention, because it's there close to New York, the Orange Grove Methodist camp, who had their tax exemption revoked because they refused to allow a lesbian couple to have their celebration on the grounds. But also, we have seen retaliation in the sense of violence and hostility perpetrated on advocates of traditional marriage. It certainly was a lot of that here in California after the Prop 8 election. People who were even physically assaulted, people who were slandered in the media. Some people even had death threats. In
the Brooklyn Diocese, Bishop DiMarzio has taken the step of asking parishes and schools not to invite state legislators to the churches and to parish events. Has this been done in any other diocese that you're aware of across the country?
I very much commend Bishop DiMarzio for this very reasonable and nonetheless courageous act of his in urging parishes and schools to do this. It's in keeping with the policy of bishops with regard to Catholic colleges and universities of not inviting speakers or giving them honorary titles who are opposed to the natural moral law with regard to the sanctity of life and of marriage. So it certainly is in keeping with the direction that the U.S. bishops have already set.
Great. Okay, thank you very much for your time, Bishop.
You're welcome.
All right, well, stay tuned and break out your papal brackets. A new archbishop has been appointed in Milan. We'll have that story and the rest of the day's headlines next. Welcome back to Currents. I'm Francesca Maxime. Coming up in just a bit, a Haitian celebration at one of Brooklyn's basilicas. But first, let's have a look at the day's headlines. Although reaction appears to be mixed when it comes to the same-sex marriage bill in New York, voters in the state overwhelmingly approve of the man who championed it. A Quinnipiac University poll shows that by a margin of more than 3-1, New York voters approve of the job Governor Andrew Cuomo is doing. The poll also showed that New York voters think of Cuomo as being more liberal than conservative. Meanwhile, a senior advisor to the Vatican says the popular governor should be denied communion. Writing on his blog, canon lawyer Edward Peters says Cuomo should not receive communion because of his long pattern of conduct on same-sex marriage. It is not the first time that Peters has made this call. Earlier this year, he said Cuomo should not receive communion because he lives with his girlfriend, celebrity cook Sandra Lee. Peters cited church law in making his statements. In other news, an appeals court has ruled that the individual mandate of President Obama's health care reform law is constitutional. The mandate requires all Americans to purchase health care by the year 2014 or face penalties. A number of groups and individuals have argued that people should not be forced to purchase products like medical coverage. Los Angeles Archbishop Jose Gomez was one of 4 American archbishops to receive the pallium. That's a special garment worn by archbishops and by the Pope. It was the second time that Gomez has received the pallium. The first came after he was appointed Archbishop of San Antonio. Gomez is the highest-ranking Hispanic bishop in the U.S. 40 archbishops from all around the world received the pallium at a mass at the Vatican today. And at today's Mass, Pope Benedict also celebrated the 60th anniversary of his priestly ordination. The celebration happened on the feast of Saints Peter and Paul.
Questa è un'ora di gratitudine. Gratitudine al Signore per l'amicizia che mi ha donato e che vuole donare a tutti noi. Gratitudine alle persone che mi hanno formato ed accompagnato.
Well, the Pope and his brother, Georg Ratzinger, were both ordained on this day back in 1951. And just yesterday, Benedict made news when he appointed Cardinal Angelo Scola as the new Archbishop of Milan. The appointment has a couple of Vatican analysts forecasting Scola as highly likely to someday succeed Pope Benedict. In the last 100 years, 2 archbishops of Milan have been elected pope. Well, a new bishop, I should say, was ordained in China today without the Vatican's approval. According to a report from the website Asia News, 7 bishops in communion with the Pope participated in the ordination, the first since the Vatican issued a declaration on excommunication for those who participate in such ordinations. Well, organizers of this year's World Youth Day say 440,000 young people have signed up, a record number with the event still 6 weeks away. World Youth Day is taking place in Madrid, Spain, August 16th through the 21st. Pope Benedict will be there beginning on the 18th. More than 35,000 people have signed up for the 22,500 volunteer positions. And congratulations to Brooklyn's diocesan newspaper, The Tablet, which was recently honored by the Catholic Press Association. The cover of the Tablet's 2010 Christmas issue took first place in the Best Cover Illustration category. The cover features the names of the people who contributed to the Tablet's Bright Christmas campaign used to form an image of the Holy Family. The cover was the work of John McAllendon, who recently retired after working part-time at the Tablet for 44 years. McAllendon is a lifelong parishioner of Little Flower Church in East Flatbush. Congratulations. Well, stay tuned. There's much more currents ahead. When we return, Haitians honor Our Lady for miracles past and pray for miracles present.
A problem for Haiti is a problem for all Haitians here. And because of that, whenever we gather at the throne, at the feet of Our Lady of Perpetual Help, we invoke her name, we invoke Haiti.
Well, finally tonight, while the island of Haiti has practically fallen off the news media's radar, the problems in the earthquake-battered island nation have not disappeared. It has been over a year since the catastrophic 7.0 earthquake that killed thousands and displaced so many into makeshift campsites. To make matters worse, the country now faces a cholera epidemic aggravated by the on and off again rebuilding effort and its hurricane seasons. And yet, there is hope. And that hope was on display Monday night during the Diocesan Haitian Apostolate's celebration of the feast day of Our Lady of Perpetual Help, the patron saint of Haiti. In 1882, Our Lady is credited with curing a smallpox epidemic that raged all throughout the island. And now, almost 130 years later, all eyes and hearts return to the image of Our Lady, hoping for some small part of her perpetual help in Haiti.
In 1942, the bishops of Haiti, as well as the president of Haiti and his cabinet, together dedicated Haiti to Our Lady of Perpetual Help.
We have special devotion to her because the icon of the Our Lady of Perpetual Help was used by the bishops in Haiti in the mid-1800s because there was an epidemic, and by the intercession of the Blessed Mother, the country was healed of this epidemic.
We come here together as a people to pray and to ask for help, to ask Mother Mary to intercede for us as a nation, to help us. We have a new government, new challenges await us. Everybody has hope, and we don't know if our hopes are going to be crushed once more.
Et bien, je dis, il y a pile maladie qui a cassé nous. Et bien, c'est maladie choléra. Choléra qui est dans le pays d'Haïti. Donc, nous avons une maladie que bon Dieu pas qu'à guérir. Nous avons une maladie et bien, que Marie pas capable de guérir. Choléra, ça, et bien, il paraît sous diverses formes. Il y a choléra maladie, et bien, qui tue le monde au même moment. Mais il y a pile l'autre forme choléra. Il y a choléra politique. Il y a choléra économique, il y a choléra division, il y a choléra chien manger chien, il y a choléra, eh bien, la haine, il y a choléra, eh bien, tout ça qui n'est pas bon dans la société.
Sometimes we feel very dead, but again, we are people of faith, and I think our faith drives us, and our faith helps us to withstand everything we have gone through.
A problem for Haiti is a problem for all Haitians here. And because of that, whenever we gather at the throne, at the feet of Our Lady of Perpetual Help, we invoke her name, we invoke Haiti.
It's a very, very striking icon which shows the child Jesus holding the hand of his mother because he's frightened. And at this hour of fright, he holds on to his mother, inviting us also to have recourse to Mary in our perpetual drama, the dramas of life, especially in a country like Haiti, where there are so many suffering. It seems that we are in constant need of rescue.
We are thrilled and blessed to have an elected president, an elected government that the people of Haiti had chosen.
And he's new right now. Personally, I think we need to give him a chance to see if he can help the people, because right now we need to get the people out of the tents. We need to get them food and jobs, and we need to get the place clean for them.
The new president is determined. He seems to be dynamic. Of course, we know that he may be lacking experience, but he promises to surround himself with experts. So we don't know. It's too early to say, but things have not yet really radically changed.
We trust that he will do his best to respond to the need of the Haitians abroad and the Haitians in Haiti. And because of that, we are hopeful. We will give him the chance.
Certainly, Haitians are people of strong faith, and it has certainly served everyone well to get through these tough times. That was a great celebration. Well, that is it for this edition of Currents. Join us tomorrow as we explore the trials and travails of 21st century Catholics. Oh my! Until then, be sure to visit us online at currentsny.net. You can also check us out on Facebook and on Twitter. We're all over the place. For all of us here at Currents, I'm Francesca Maxime. Thank you so much for watching. Be sure to have a good night.